Newsshadowing. Treasurer Jim Clemers announces 15% pay rise for SQ workers. Was get this morning that when a number of people, together with stands and shoulders of 1600 generations of First Nation people, and that is our shared history. And I'm delighted to be here with my wonderful colleague David, since I treasure at the Johnny's for what is a seismic shift in healthcare in Australia. Today we turn the corner for healthcare in Australia. We'd have to say near and now I have ambitions for healthcare, and today we announced that what will be federal budgets in Tuesday night, which is $11.3 billion for a pay rise for healthcare workers. Long deserved, long awaited for, and now the Labour government, it is here. What that means for healthcare workers, you hear the personal care worker who's watching this morning and would wait the afternoon shift tonight. That means for you nearly a $140 a week extra, or $7,000 a year extra in your pay packet. If you are a registered nurse, it means $198 a week extra, or nearly more than $10,000 a week extra. That is life-changing money for people. And for us as a Labour government, that really helps right and wrong, where the care economy has been long been undervalued in its country, and today's historic pay rise, the biggest pay rise ever for this sector in history of federation, started to address that wrong. The other elements I noticed that we are delivering an historic increase to the daily rate for residents in aged care. The previous index rates, which is what governments give providers, is the cost of delivering the service, was 1.7% last year. One of the last decisions that one member governments made was to avoid the indexation rate at a percentage of 1.7%. Today's announcement, when you sum a total a little up, it's a 17% per residents per day in access care. That is enormous, and the properly and fairly addresses the cost of delivering quality health care in this country. I'm so grateful to healthcare ministries to be able to deliver that. I'm so grateful for people like Steve Holmes and Gunwill who have been delivering things like 24/7 and nurses for years here at Gunwill, and I'm so grateful that I have a Labour treasurer in Jim Thomas who has backed healthcare workers in all the way to deliver this pay rise. So I hand it over to you. One more. We together this morning, the Nanas Amber people, together we stand on shoulders of 1600 generations of First Nation people, and that is our shared history. And I'm delighted to be here with my wonderful colleague Stephen Stick and treasurer at Janus Task for what is a seismic shift in healthcare in Australia. Today we turn the corner for healthcare in Australia. We hope to be safe for nearly a year now about the ambitions for healthcare, and today we announced that when we be federal, which is $11.3 billion for a pay rise for healthcare workers. Long deserved, long awaited for, and now the Labour government, it is here. What that means for healthcare workers is a personal care worker who's watching this morning and we wait the afternoon shift tonight. That means for you nearly $140 a week extra, or $7,000 a year extra in your pay packet. If you are a registered nurse, it means $190 a week extra or nearly more than $10,000 a week extra. That is life-changing money for people. And for us as a labor government, that really helps right or wrong, where the care economy has been long been undervalued in the country, and today's historic pay rise, the biggest pay rise ever for this sector in history of federation, starts to address that wrong. The other elements I've noticed that we are delivering a historic increase to the daily rate for residents in aged care. The previous indexation rate, which is what governments give providers in the cost of delivering the service, was 1.7%. Last year, one of the last decisions what numerous governments made it was to abort indexation rate at a percentage of 17%. Today's announcement, when you sum us total little up, it's 70% increase per residents per day in aged care. That is numerous, and that properly that fairly addresses the costs of delivering quality health care in this country. I'm so grateful to health care and deliver that. I'm so grateful to people like Stephen Holmes and Bill Willis who have been delivering things like 24/7 nurses for years here at Good Billy's. And I'm so grateful that I have a labor treasurer in Jim Termis who has backed aged care workers in all the way to deliver this pay rise. So I hand over here. One more. Which we gathered this morning, the number of people, together we stand as shoulders of 1600 generations of First Nation people, and that's our shared history. And I'm delighted to be here with my wonderful colleague David Sick and I treasure at Geneva Tama for what is a seismic shift in aged care in Australia. Today we turn the corner for aged care in Australia. We would have been safe for nearly a year now about ambitions for aged care, and today we announced that will be the federal budget on Tuesday night, which is $11.3 billion for a pay rise for aged care workers. Long deserved, long awaited for, and now the Labour government is here. What that means for aged care workers, if you're a personal care worker who's watching this morning and on your way for afternoon shift tonight, that means for you nearly $140 a week extra or $7,000 a year extra in your pay packet. If you are a registered nurse, it means $198 a week extra or nearly more than $10,000 a week extra. That is life-changing money for people. And for us as a Labour government, that really helps right or wrong, where the care economy has been long been undervalued in this country, and today's historic pay rise, the biggest pay rise ever for this sector in the history of federation, start to address that wrong. The other elements I noticed is that we are delivering a historic increases to daily rate for residents in aged care. The previous indexation rate, which is what governments give provider, is the cost of delivering the service, was 1.7%. Last year, one of the last decisions that numerous governments made was to award the indexation rates at a percentage of 1.7%. Today's announcements, when you sum a total little up, is a 17% per increase per residents per day in aged care. That is enormous, and that properly and fairly addresses the costs of delivering quality aged care in this country. I'm so grateful to be aged care delivered to who have been delivering things like 24/7 nurses for a year here at Given Ellis, And I'm so grateful to have unbelievable treasure in these times who has backed healthcare workers in all the way to deliver this pay rise. So I hand over here. Last, which we gathered this morning, the non-Asman number people, together we stand on shoulders of 1600 generations of First Nation people, and that is our shared history. And I'm delighted to be here with my wonderful colleagues David Steve and treasure at Geneva time for what is a seismic shift in healthcare in Australia. Today, we turn the corner for healthcare in Australia. With the hobby saved for nearly a year now, I have ambitions for healthcare. And today, we announced that what will be in federal budgets on Tuesday night, which is $11.3 billion for a pay rise for healthcare workers. Long deserved, long awaited for, and now the Labour government, it is here. What that means for healthcare workers, if you're a personal care worker who's watching this morning and on your way to afternoon shift tonight, that means for you nearly $140 a week extra or $7,000 a year extra in your pay packet. If you're a registered nurse, it means $189 a week extra or nearly more than $10,000 a week extra. That is life-challenging money for people. And for us, as a Labour government, that really helps right or wrong, where the care economy has been long been undervalued in this country, and today's historic pay rise, the biggest pay rise ever for this sector in this history of federation, starts to address that wrong. The other elements I noticed that we are delivering an historic increase to the daily rate for residents in aged care. The previous indexation rate, which is what governments give provider, is the cost of delivering in this service, was 1.7%. Last year, one of the last decisions that one most governments made was to award the indexation rate at a percentage of 1.7%. Today's announcements, when you sum a total little up, it's a 17% per increase per residents per day in aged care. That is enormous, and the properly and fairly addresses the costs of delivering quality health care in this country. I'm so grateful to be able to deliver that. I'm so grateful for people like Stephen Holmes and Gavin Billis who have been delivering things like 24/7 nurses per year here at Gavin Billis. And I'm so grateful that I have Labour Treasurer Jim Thomas who has been back as care workers in all the way to deliver this pay rise. So I hand up here.